Welcome back to another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by our friends at Conway Furniture. That's Highway 86, east end of Listowel, for all your furniture needs, including on how to be a couch potato. We'll talk about that later. Our friends at Larry Hudson, Chevrolet Buick GMC, deals are always hot there. We'll talk about that too. Of course, our friends at the Listowel Squash Courts. Ryan Drury alongside Clarkey. We're very pleased to be joined by our great friend, the voice of junior hockey on CKNX Radio AM 920 and CKNX.ca, the incomparable Steve Sabourin on the show. Sabby, how are you?
You're too kind. No, awesome to see you guys.
It's great to have you on, brother. And of course, we're having you on because it's that special time of year again. It's time for Junior C playoffs. And we'll touch on that in just a minute because there's a lot of interesting matchups to dig into. And we'll dig into all four of them in the Pollock Division that we cover here in Midwestern Ontario. Literally right before producer Adam pushed the record button to get us started on the show, word coming down from Pierre LeBrun, the trade call is pending. But it sounds like Chris Tanev is going to be the newest member of the Dallas Stars. And Clarkey, I want to start with you because this is a guy that has literally, for months now, after the Zadorov move to Vancouver, been talked about as the number one trade target for your Toronto Maple Leafs. And it sounds like he's heading to bring his big right shot game to the number one offense in the league in the Dallas Stars. How are you feeling with this news?
I'm not surprised that the Leafs didn't get him. They didn't have the second round pick, which it sounded like Calgary needed. We haven't got any word yet from what Dallas gave up, but I'm sure that news will trickle in shortly. I bet it's more than a second. I bet it's a second and a player or prospect. And the Leafs just didn't have that. And I wouldn't have given up a first round pick for him. Be interesting to see also if Dallas has signed him to an extension, because that was a key move as well. If they haven't, then this could be just a pure rental for them. And the Leafs could always get him for nothing next year. So it's one of those catch-22s where you have to give up some players, some assets to get a guy, but I'm not surprised the Leafs didn't get him. I was hoping that maybe if the Leafs were in on it, it would have been a little bit of a bigger deal with Hanifin and even Markstrom, like a blockbuster. Let's do it. Let's make a blockbuster here. But nonetheless, they're out of it, at least on the Tanev front. Maybe they're still in on Hanifin. We'll have to see. Hanifin has said he didn't want to play for a Canadian team, but I hear maybe that's not as accurate as it's come out.
Yeah. Steve, your reaction to the deal? Obviously a big acquisition for Dallas, who are one of the top teams in the league.
Yeah, well, I want to touch a little bit on Clarkey's comment about the blockbuster. To me, certainly looking at Markstrom and Hanifin being available and, packaging, a 6-player swing of some sort and possibly one of the big four moving, to Calgary, who knows? But there are so many intricacies in those types of deals. For the Dallas Stars, I mean, they're right in the thick of things, even with the Jets right now, even though they played 4 more games. But, I mean, defenseman seems to be the key this year for a team. I just find every year teams either looking for that one power forward or teams are out for, the solid defense and that hammer. So it looks like Dallas is struck first.
And if I could just mention, LeBron has said a second, a young prospect, and a conditional pick. So there you go.
That's what I just read.
It was whatever team was going to step up to more than a second was going to get him. So there you go.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a big piece off the trade bait board. And obviously there's a bunch of other guys out there. I've also just read that good news could be coming down the pipe for Vancouver Canuck fans. It sounds like there's been significant progress. That is what the rumor is. That's a direct quote from some of the insiders online, that Vancouver is nearing an 8-year max deal with Elias Pettersson, which would obviously make Canucks Nation very, very happy. And
I thought you were going to say, I thought you were going to say Phil Kessel.
No. And there's also news as well. The Minnesota Wild have confirmed they will not trade Marc-Andre Fleury. They will be keeping him.
Well,
so,
yeah.
So there's a potential goalie off the board, which I think will only inflate the market for Jacob Markstrom, which the rumor's been that the Devils are in for him and they can't agree on a price. And then there's, the rumors about Pittsburgh's ask for Jake Gensel. There's a lot of storylines still with the trade deadline just over a week away as we record this. So
is this the trade that breaks the dam here? And see, now maybe others will follow. The Leafs apparently in on Adam Larson from Seattle. Another good defenseman. Our buddy Trent McClement's big on him. 100 guy, 100, what is it? 100 blocks and 100 shots. I don't know what it is, but he's big on Adam Larson.
Well, he's a good defender. He shoots right, but yeah, I wonder that as well, Steve. Yeah. Do you think this one will be the one that breaks it out? Because Tanev, I think it could be, because he was one of the most rumored players to be moving all year, or at least since Christmas time, and away he goes.
Well, I mean, you could always get a lot of trades. I mean, yeah, the dam could burst, but looking at the top teams, I mean, yes, Dallas did get a piece that they felt they needed. But when you look at the other top teams, are they going to gain anything better than they have right now? Like, to be honest, when you go tops, like
it's
six,
so tricky. It's
Panthers,
so tricky.
Bruins, Leafs, Rangers, Canes, Flyers in the East. Is there any piece on the trade board that they could add that would immensely improve their chances, instead of just saying, that was an okay trade, or that's an okay pickup?
Yeah, that's going to be the tough thing, right? And I heard them talking about it today on Overdrive. Look at what Boston did last year. They sold the farm and went hard at the deadline. Look what happened to them. They got put out in the first round. Same with the Leafs. They had a very aggressive trade deadline. They got pumped by Florida in the second round, mind you. They got to the second round finally. It's not even New York, even the Rangers, like they sold it. They got Tarasenko and Pat Kane. Like, those top teams, are they going to go and do the same thing this year? I have a feeling some of them might not, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and why I was saying it's tricky is, like, there's so much parity in the league right now. Like, did the teams stand pat because of the parity, or did they say, hey, if we can make an impact move here, we have a good legitimate shot? And, we spoke on here a couple of weeks ago saying the Leafs are in desperate need of doing something, and then they run off 7 in a row. They're the number 1 team against the West this year. How do you figure that?
I don't know. It's weird. There are a lot of bizarre stats associated with the Leafs, as there always is.
Like, another one is they're like 2-9-2, I think, against Buffalo, Columbus, Chicago, Ottawa. If they had played them just 500 this year, they would be in first place in the National Hockey League.
See, and that's not, those statistics aren't a personnel issue. Those statistics are a get it in your head, you got to play every game issue.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Is that a coach?
More of a mentality
Is that a
issue.
motivation? Is that like something Sheldon Keefe that just doesn't have them ready for those games? I don't think so. I think the guys just mail it in on those ones.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard
to say. It costs them home ice advantage. Now, the way they're playing, maybe they don't want a home ice advantage. They're playing way better on the road this year. Just beat Colorado. Had to throw that in for producer Adam.
Yeah, of course you did. Well, yeah, it's hard to say too, right? And I mean, the little issue they had with Keefe getting tossed out of the game the other night.
Well, rightly so. Adam, you got, speaking of producer Adam, we put this little piece together. Like, I don't blame him. I mean, he's it's the first time I think he's got ejected, but like the penalty calls are unbelievable. Like Brody here, apparently that's a hold. Okay. Like I didn't see a hold whatsoever. And
this is the worst one.
The Marner one. He toe picks and falls down with 3 minutes left in the game. He's ticked off. And then
that's the worst one.
Sheldon's pissed off. He is livid. And then he gets kicked out of the game and hands things over to Guy Boucher. And off he goes. But yeah, it was ridiculous.
He's getting fined again. And one thing I will say is that Sheldon needs to relax a little bit. Like he is easily, by far, there's no one else even close, the most aggressively mouthy coach from the bench in the NHL.
And is this costing the Leafs? Is it costing them? Are the referees saying, we're just going to keep calling penalties on you guys? Because it certainly looks like it.
It's hard to say. What I'll say is that it certainly doesn't look like, hey, they're all human. I don't think that he is a very popular guy.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll say that. Anyway, I don't know.
I agree.
You know what is popular? Enough NHL talk. We've got some great local hockey to break down, and that's why we have our friend Steve Sabourin chiefly on the show here today, because the PJHL Pollock Division playoffs are underway, and we will have coverage, as always, on CKNX this year. And Sabby, I love that the changes that have come in, and obviously with Fergus joining the league, all the teams are playing in the first round. There's no 7-team first round bye for first overall. Everybody is playing. And let's start with that first series, obviously, with the Hanover Barons, who remain a regular season powerhouse. And for a third year in a row, the question is going to be, can they take this thing all the way to the end? What a tremendous year. 16-game heater. Like, man, did they ever have a wild finish to the season? And they're going to take on, obviously, the Goderich Flyers in the first round. I mean, how do you see this thing turning out? I know Todd Norman, our buddy, has done a lot to kind of revive that program and really breathe some new life into it this year. They got some great building blocks. I'm not so sure that we're going to see a lengthy series here on part of the Flyers. I think Hanover might just be a little too powerful for them.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we caught Goderich near the end of the season, and Walkerton played a tremendous game. Again, a lot of youngsters on that team playing a very set kind of breakout, set defense, kind of stuck to the playbook. Not a lot of imagination when it came to playmaking, but just worked and grinded. But the Hanover Barons will be just too much. It'll be a 4. If it's not a 4-game sweep, I don't think Hanover is going to be very impressed with themselves. They're going to be on a mission. Just too much firepower up front, big, solid defense, and goaltending is rock solid as well. Of course, picking up Derek Hartley, who helped lead the Stainer-Siskins to a win last year in the Schmaltz Cup quarterfinals. So it should be Hanover in 4. Straight to it.
So obviously, then we move down the list and we go to the number 2 overall Mount Forest Patriots. Now, as we record this, it's Wednesday, February 28th. We're doing the show this week. Tonight was supposed to be game 1 of the series. Unfortunately, Old Man Winter having a real temper tantrum on hump day here and has unfortunately canceled game 1. So those teams, pay attention to social media. We'll get updates on what they're going to do there. But obviously, Mount Forest, they're going to be taking on the Mitchell Hawks. And man, Mount Forest, for as powerful as they are, and obviously a rarity in the division, a 100-point scorer, Brody LeBlanc, congratulations. Just unbelievable the season he and his teammates put together. I have a feeling that this could potentially end up being a decently short series as well, Sabby.
Yeah, and you have to remember Mitchell were sellers for the trade deadline before the January 10th mark there. Seth Hugen, who was a big player in the Mitchell plans, is now with the Mount Forest Patriots and has been for a couple of months. So there is no secret that Mitchell got to a point where they let some of their veterans go to try to finish out their careers in a winning scenario. Mitchell, very tough to play in that barn, though. It's very tight quarters, and they're big in the back end. So it's not going to be easy at times, and Mitchell has heart. Scott Bridge and the crew is going to try to bring everything to the table, but at the end of the day, Mount Forest should come out of that series. Again, they have their sights set on back-to-back years for sure.
Yeah, powerful lineup there. Just quickly, the price for Tanev, Calgary to Dallas, a 2nd-round pick, conditional 3rd, and Artem Grushnikov, the prospect going to Calgary for Chris Tanev. All right, so now let's work ourselves kind of into what I would call the meat of the lineup here. in terms of our playoff series. And there is a very, very interesting matchup here in the 3 and 6 seed. And, Sabby, we've talked a lot over the last couple years just about, that Walkerton Capitals organization and the work that they've put in there. Boy, have they ever bounced back, but they're in tough in the first round too here.
Well, actually, the Walkerton Capitals squeaked out a finish into 5th place.
Right. Yes.
Right. So they were able to squeak through, and it's going to be Kincardine number 3 and Wingham number 6. Walkerton ended up with the head-to-head against Wingham. This series is going to lean towards Kincardine. They have a number of 20-year-olds in the lineup. They're a veteran team. Jeff Alkenbrack, the coach, has done a great job with them all season. And under normal circumstances, if you took Hanover out of the mix and their, monstrosity they have, you could consider Kincardine contenders for sure. They should be able to get by Wingham. Wingham can't score. And everybody up and down the Wingham organization will tell you their number one issue is putting pucks in the net. Garrett Gawley has been decent, but there's only so many games. I mean, Clarkey's a fantastic goaltender, and I'm sure he'd only let in a goal a game for 40 straight games. Very tough to do. And, Garrett Gawley has had to hold his team in there. They have a solid D, but they just can't score, and they don't have that game breaker that some of the other teams have. Hanover has like 4 of them. Mount Forest has Brody LeBlanc. Fergus has Ansel Meany and a couple other guys on the list. Wingham, unfortunately, doesn't have any. So, but with that being said, they've had some good tilts over the past couple of seasons, and Wingham could be able to squeak out a game, maybe 2, but it's going to take everything and everybody for Wingham to get by Kincardine.
Yeah, and I would say if Wingham does end up with an upset there, you can firmly put it on the shoulders of the man you just talked about, Garrett Gawley, who, for my money, has been the best goaltender in the league
If
the
he
last
gets
couple
on,
seasons.
and to be honest with you, I think Kincardine's the best matchup for Wingham because Kincardine plays a good, solid game. But Fergus is very, very physical. They're very aggressive. Or if you got Mount Forest or Hanover, the writing's pretty much on the wall. So I think Kincardine's a very good matchup for the Wingham Ironmen. So we are actually covering Game 1 on Friday night, 8:30 puck drop from the Davidson Center. Myself and Johnny K will have the call for that contest. And then the final series, Walkerton and Fergus, and this should be pretty interesting. Fergus, again, the new kids on the block, but some definite players in their lineup who have been to the playoffs before at the junior B level. And we know, of course, Jason Brier, who helped put this team together, is a very energetic person when it comes to hockey. He has experience with Listowel when they had those some of those great runs before they won it all in the Sutherland Cup. He also was involved in Mitchell a couple of years ago. So the heart and soul is there for sure. And Fergus put together a win streak near the end of the season and pulled themselves up the ladder to grab that 4th spot. Walkerton, Chad Haggett and the crew, a phenomenal job in rebuilding. They did lose one of their best offensive weapons in Sam Shakes, which they moved him to Stainer near the end of the season. They also have a great goaltender in Vance Meyer, a veteran in net. But again, one of Walkerton's weaknesses is they have troubles putting the puck in the net. The offense just isn't deep enough. So advantage to Fergus. Walkerton, can they squeak one out maybe? They lost the opening game 3-2 on the road to Fergus. So it was close. Well, we'll just see if Walkerton can put something together.
Yeah, and again, as I mentioned, they've done a great job building that program back up. And yeah, you're right. I'd forgotten they had the tiebreaker with Wingham to slide into fifth. But just quickly before we kind of wrap up and do a quick check in on the Cyclones, who their playoffs, the Junior B playoffs, won't start till next week. But really quickly, you bring up Jason Brier, and we had him on the show at the start of the year, Clarkey and I. Obviously a new expansion team, really great. Like they assembled a team of guys that have never played together before. Sure, there were some guys that were familiar with others and had played with one or two guys, but they assemble a brand new team, an expansion team. At Christmas time, just before Christmas, they were in 7th place, Sabby. Like, kudos on Jason Brier and his crew for being a brand new team in still, for my money, the toughest division in this PJHL league. And to finish 4th in your first year and have home ice advantage in the playoffs, like, that's a big accomplishment for this crew.
Well, and when you look at how they put the team together, it's a balancing act, because what they wanted to do was put the team together to create some excitement right off the hop, but at the same time build for down the road as well. So, a mix of older and younger players. And the older players they got are eligible to play 2 years with the team, right? They just didn't go out and get a guy who could only play 1 year. So they have them for this season and next season. The second thing for the Fergus Whalers, the injuries at the beginning of the year, is they suffered. Some guys were late getting to the team because they were recovering from injuries through the offseason. Other guys got hurt early in the season. So it wasn't really until just before Christmas where they had everybody back and were able to practice and get things rolling. So they've been able to adapt and push their way through some adversity. And I'm also, looking at the standings. If things shake out and 1 through 4 wins their first round of the series, or first round of the playoffs, it's going to end up Hanover will face Fergus in round 2. That is going to be a tough match for Hanover, because Fergus plays a very aggressive game. Yes, Carden throw some hits, and Mount Forest can play physical, but Fergus plays hard. And I think if you're Mount Forest, you like your position, where if you're looking ahead a little bit, you're going to get Kincardine in round 2, which I don't want to say will be a softer series, but would not be as aggressive as facing the Fergus Whalers.
Yeah, those Whalers, man, channeling my cousin Brad and the Hartford Whalers of the 80s, a gritty group. I wonder which of them is the Ray Ferraro of the group. It might be Ansel Meany. I want to quickly ask you as well, by the way, all the PJHL playoff coverage, you can catch it on CKNX. Pay attention to the CKNX Jr Hockey Twitter feed. We'll have all the games on there for you, the times they start, how you can catch Steve and Johnny K. And hey, I'll pop on there occasionally as well. The junior playoffs here in Midwestern Ontario, they're always on CKNX. I want to mention, like I said, the Listowel Cyclones. Now, GOJHL playoffs won't start till next week, but Listowel, what a season they put together, and they are starting to make people reminisce about that 2017-18 magical run to the first ever Sutherland Cup championship. At that time, it was a back-to-back Cherry Cup team as well. They're going to get Caledon in the first round. I don't think people are giving them much hope, but overall, if you could give us a summation of just what this Cyclones team is capable of this year, how far do you think they could go, Sabby?
They definitely have all the tools and skill and heart to make it as far as they want to. From putting that kind of late October, November run together where they went 17 unbeaten, to coming out of the Christmas break and taking charge. They've been near the top of the power rankings for, 3/4 of the season, if not more. They've got the best goaltending duo in the Midwest, the 1-2 punch, for sure. Their defense has come along great, and they're getting scoring from lines 1 through 4. So all the ingredients are there for that great recipe. The biggest challenge they're going to have to face is now they're going to get into situations where it's going to be longevity. Because in order to go deep, you have to have the drive and, the conditioning to go night after night, which will be their biggest test. No problem with Caledon. Caledon going into this weekend, 11 points on the season, not a good team. However, Listowel, you can't take a game off, go in, get it done in 4. And then challenging in the second round, that's where it's really going to get interesting, that 2nd through 5. You've got Stratford Elmira and the KW Siskins. It's not settled until after this weekend of who finishes where. Ayr rolled off 8 straight wins here in the last couple of weeks. Listowel faces them Friday night. To me, that's a good playoff test. Sunday in Elmira at 2:00 will be a good playoff test because the Sugar Kings will be battling for position. So it's going to be a very interesting. I think the biggest connection to that 17-18 team, Ryan, is the depth of the squad. Being able to run 4 lines in any situation and going with the hot hand at the time and having confidence in everybody who steps onto the ice to do their job. I think that's the biggest link of this team and the comparison you can make in the past.
Steve, thanks for not giving Trent McClement too much credit here, because I would never hear the end of it at work. But Trent has done a tremendous job, no question about it. I'm just riling him up a little bit. He has done a tremendous job.
And that's great, but I mean, in talking with coaches and everything, when you get to this time of the year, their job was done. Mm-hmm. Their job is done. Oh, yeah. As of January, there's really nothing else they can do. Everything from here on in is what the players do on the ice.
I don't know how this guy sold any cars or trucks at work, because all I heard at the beginning of the year is him on the phone trying to get Urig and Burkett and all those guys, and he landed them all, so that's good. Yeah. I also have an insider's look at how this team's going to do, and believe me, I think they're going to go all the way because, let's just say a few of the guys have been shooting on me, and I'm really pumping up their confidence level because they're putting a lot by me.
Well, see, but you got to remember too, in the GOJHL, it's 2 steps. One is in the Midwest, it's the Cherry Cup, which is massive. Anytime you can clinch that, that's great. But then you've got the Sutherland Cup, which is the next step. So you win the one, but the work's not done. You got to go to the next. So if I were to look at everything we've seen this year, I truly believe that we would be on pace for a Listowel versus Caledonia Sutherland Cup final.
There we go. Well, I mean, Listowel's only lost, I think, 2 games at home all year, so they are tough at home.
They are, but the other side of it in the Midwest is the Elmira, KW, and Stratford, the 3 teams that are there. All 3 of them have a very aggressive relationship with the Cyclones, so to speak. So it's not like there's only one team there that you're like, oh, I'm glad we're not facing them. Possibly in the second round, you're going to face one of 3 teams that wants to knock you out and knock you out hard. So there's no underdog story here for the Listowel Cyclones. You guys are at the top right now. Everybody's going to be trying to knocking you off your horse. So I would absolutely. I would say even back in 17-18, fantastic team, but there was still that little bit of an underdog mentality in the sense that let's prove everybody wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right.
That was their first time in their 3rd time in the Sutherland Cup. They got bounced out the last 2 times. They were the underdog going in against London and Caledonia. This time, they are one of the top teams across the board. So can they
Yeah.
carry that mantle through?
Yeah, everybody, they have a target on their back for sure. Steve, we would be remiss if we let you go before we talked a little ball, because spring training underway. And I'm curious, this one, after what we saw Alek Manoah do in his first appearance since we last saw him. Yeah, that's what his performance definitely engendered, feelings of Cy Young.
Cy Young
thirds. Now I want your opinion on this. Because we could spend, and we will spend, when opening days around the corner, and we'll definitely have to get you back on, Sabby. We'll spend plenty of time dissecting the roster, this, that, and the other, what they did do, didn't do. I simply want to know what you think would be more likely. Vladdy Jr. hits 40 bombs, or Alek Manoah returns to form and wins 10 plus games and has an ERA under 3.5. What's more likely in your opinion?
Vladdy hits 40. Vladdy hits 40.
But do you think Manoah
I would
has
rather
a shot?
that. I would rather that.
I think Manoah has a shot to stay in the bigs. But
man,
to compare it to, would this happen before this happened? You got to go with Vladdy hitting 40 before Manoah hits 10, for sure.
Which is no guarantee either. That's why it is kind of, at least I thought, a harder decision to make. But I mean, I do kind of have to agree with you, Sabby, because we've seen Vladdy do that,
Yeah, and the thing about it too is Vladdy is in a much better position to achieve that goal than Manoah is to achieve.
He'll play every day,
right?
He'll play every day. You're right.
So I mean, that's only my opinion. I mean,
I agree.
Other things have happened. Who knows?
I think Manoah's going to have a bounce back. I really do. And I'm not worried about his first game. Like, hey, Ryan, it's one game. It's one outing. It's one start.
But we kept saying that.
It's not just about the outing, though. It's how I'm not even worried about the hits or the runs. I'm worried about the hit batters.
Oh, I know. The control.
That's mechanics.
I get it. But like, he's not going to hit every other guy.
There's a big difference between Kikuchi throwing a curveball in the dirt to Manoah beaming a guy when he doesn't mean to. Huge difference.
Yeah, for sure. No question about it. I'm just chalking it up to first game jitters, and he's going to move on. He's a beef. Ryan, the guy had a terrible last season. There's no question about it. He had a lot of pressure coming on in this first start. I'm not going to say what I was going to say because it would have to be beeped out, but let it breathe a little bit. Let him have a few starts under his belt. I remember back in the NHL preseason, I made the Vancouver Canucks a couch potato because they gave up 10 goals in a game. It's preseason. Let him work it out. Let's just see where it goes. They need him. It would be nice if he could play third base too, because I don't know what they're going to do there. Like, Chapman's still a free agent, right? What is going on there? I don't understand what
Scott Boras wants too much money. He thinks he's worth $80 bajillion, and he simply isn't.
Right. And as soon as he's not going to get anything if he doesn't do something soon.
They're in trouble too. Here's what gets them in trouble too, in terms of the Jays trying to bring them back, because that's the rumor now. Like, oh well, Bellinger went back to the Cubs, so surely now Chapman's going to go back to the Jays after sitting there. Here's what gets them in trouble with Scott Boras, because the argument obviously for not bringing him back is his bat is a black hole. I love Chappie. Everyone knows that. His bat made me sick last year. Puke-worthy at bats. Still an elite defender, but they gave Isaiah Kiner-Falefa $7.5 million for a year over the next 2 seasons. So Matt Chapman's going to sit there and be like, well, you just gave that bum
100%.
Hey, IKF, he could become a big star this year for the Jays. I'm not counting on it. I apologize. I shouldn't call him a bum for $7.5 million based on his career. That's a joke. I don't know what Ross and his computer nerds were doing on that one, but Chapman's going to turn around and go, well, if you're going to give that guy 7.5, I want 20. That's the challenge, I think. Would you bring him back at 20?
It goes back to the point, is Chapman's defense that much better than what they have now that it's worth the greater amount of money?
Do you think it is?
At this point, probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard decision because God almighty, like the hope would be that if they do it, he has a massive turnaround at the plate. Because I don't care. Like, yeah,
well,
every single
carry
ball
on
that gets
how he
hit,
started last year.
I know. If a ball gets hit, this is what I'll say. And I'm the biggest Matt Chapman supporter in the world.
I like him.
If a ball gets hit his way, I can close my eyes and turn around from the TV and know that it's an out.
I think this team
is that worth
trouble.
$20 million? Well, I don't know.
I just think they're in deep trouble. I really think they're in deep trouble.
I don't know, man. It's unreal.
They've again, talking about giving Manoah a chance. Clarkey is, why didn't they sign Chapman? Because he's solid on D. There's no questions about what's he's a leader. He's a worker. He loves the game. The fans love him.
Yeah.
And you're not going to give him that chance to bring the bat back around? So
I agree.
I totally
There's
agree.
an argument there. And the other problem,
maybe they let the pitchers hit on some of those days and DH for him.
But the issue is the Jays went out and they made a number of changes. They signed a number of guys. They spent a number of money.
They did.
And that's put Chapman out of the running. Because of the dollar.
I agree, but
because of the dollar figure.
I don't think they've done a lot.
Which people will look at the other way, and I understand this side of the argument too, going, well, hold on a second. You were ready to pony up $700 million for Ohtani, and you're not, and now that he's not coming, you're not going to give Chapman 2 years at 40. If it's to be believed that Scott Boras wants $20 million a year, you're not going to give Matt Chapman that to bring him back.
No, because
I understand the fans' gripe. No, I know he's not. But that's what people will say. They're going to go, you had the money here, and now you're not going to take way less than that to solidify this. There's going to be a lot to dig into. And like I said, Sabby, we got to have you on before opening day because we'll have a lot more to dig into.
A round table with Sabby and Longley.
Yes. Oh. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, that's what we did last year, right? Sabby, I'm so excited that the Junior C playoffs are underway.
Yeah, just before we go, we have to mention Brodie LeBlanc's 101 points.
It's unbelievable.
I think we owe that young man's accomplishment a little bit of more focus. He had an incredible year, 50 goals on the season, 101 points. To me, has to be a shoe-in for the PJHL Player of the Year across the province.
Oh, my God,
it could be a no-doubter. The last two players to get 100 points or more in this division happened 10 years ago. Aaron Armstrong for the Wingham Ironmen, who ended up with, I believe, 126. And Drew Davidson of the Walkerton Hawks, who came in at over 100. And Aaron Armstrong was named the OHA Junior C Player of the Year that season. So a decade since there's been an 100-point getter from the Pollock Division. So congratulations to Brodie LeBlanc. Good luck to him and the team in the playoffs, and 8 great organizations suiting up to get things ready to roll for the second season.
And in that vein, one last question from me. How many does Matthews get?
Oh, well, Barney's going to hurt his back next game. And no, I'm just kidding.
Probably get cross-checked. No penalty.
He does.
The MTM betting line would just flop. That's a good question. How many games do we have left?
He's still on pace for over 70.
I think they have 23 left.
I think, you know what? Let's be nice and give him an even 70.
Okay. We're going to poll everyone from now on.
Let's be nice. I think he's got another Hattie left in him somewhere.
Oh, I would say it's probably a good bet.
I think he'll get 66. He'll beat Ovi by 1. I think he'll get 66. That's my prediction.
72.
Steve? Yeah,
as long as he doesn't get 67. Just don't stop there.
Clarkey, I think at the end of the day, though, you would much rather see a silver cup being hoisted.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's coming.
You never know.
It's coming, Steve. It's coming.
You never know. Savvy, what we do know for sure is coming is great junior hockey coverage on CKNX AM 920 and CKNX.ca with Mr. Steve Sabourin and John Colias, a.k.a. Johnny K. Steve, thanks for doing this, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, coming up next, we're going to chat with our friend Shawn Cottrill of Team Cottrill of mixed doubles curling fame. We got to talk about what went down at the Scotties Tournament of Hearts, an emotional goodbye to Jennifer Jones. And hey, the Brier is kicking off this week. We will dig into that with Mr. Cottrill next here on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by our friends at Conway Furniture, Larry Hudson, Chevrolet Buick GMC, and of course, the Listowel Squash Courts. Thanks to our friend Steve Sabourin for jumping on, chatting a little bit about the Junior C playoffs, and we're very excited to chat more playoffs here in the curling world. Our friend from Team Cottrill, mixed doubles curling fame, our buddy, friend of the show, Shawn Cottrill. Shawn, how are you, man?
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
We're doing great, man. And man, curling fans were treated to such a spectacle over the last weekend. The Scotties Tournament of Hearts, an unbelievable final, and coming up just short. What a treat that would have been to see Jennifer Jones go out on a real career high, and she comes up just short, inches short, as a matter of fact, against Rachel Homan's rink. And Homan, she's becoming a legend if she wasn't already herself. But, what kind of emotions were you feeling when you were watching that final and seeing Jennifer Jones for the last time? It was really something.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. For myself, growing up as a curler, I started kind of into the competitive curling scene about the time that Jennifer Jones was breaking onto the scene and winning her first Scotties. So it's going to be strange for me as a fan, not seeing her at all the big events, and the fact that she's leaving at really still the top of her game and is in the top 2 or 3 female skips in the country, if not the world still. So it's always cool to see somebody go out when they're still at the top.
Yeah, it was really something
for sure.
Oh,
yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
She was going for a record-breaking 7th Scotties title. She's got 6, and it's just incredible. And it's one of those things, Clarkey, where you've watched curling for a long time too, and so have I. It's really hard to kind of equate and put into words. And they were talking with Homan after the win, and she was struggling to summarize a hero of hers, really, in Jennifer Jones. It's really hard to kind of encapsulate what somebody means to a sport like that, right, Shawn?
Yeah, for sure. The sport has changed so much in the 20 years that she's been at the top, and it's players like her, I think, that have caused the sport to change for the positive. Just a super aggressive style of play, so much more exciting than what happened back in the 90s, the hit games and no rocks in play. And she's been a champion on the ice, but she's also done so much to improve the sport in Canada and across the world. It's awesome. Yeah.
I've watched curling so long, Ryan. I remember easily them going from the slap brooms to the push brooms and how quiet it was in the rinks after it. Because it used to be really loud in the curling rink when they were slapping those brooms down. Eddie Wernick and Al Hackner and all those guys. It was awesome to watch those guys, and Kevin Martin and my buddy Russ Howard. Jennifer had to play that afternoon as she lost the 1-2 page playoff. Everyone on the broadcast seemed to think that was an advantage. As a curler, do you think it's an advantage to play in the afternoon and get a feel for the rocks and a feel for the ice before a final, or does fatigue then play a factor?
Yeah, I think playing the game, if you knew going into the game you were going to win the game, you would choose to play it every time, that afternoon semifinal game.
And it helped to get a 5-0 lead in the first end.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't hurt.
No.
But yeah, no, I don't think fatigue comes into play in a final of that magnitude. You're as up and ready to play that game as you're ever going to be. And one of the broadcasters on the broadcast made exactly that point, that if you knew you were guaranteed to win the semifinal, you would choose to play it every time, I think.
Yeah, it was a wild finish, a wild final. That one shot that Rachel Homan made in the last, I think it was the last end, where one of Jennifer's rocks actually backed up and came from behind the tee line right up to the button. It was like, oh my God, like you thought fate was on her side at that point, but Rachel, I mean, did pull it out at the end, but that was an incredible shot.
Yeah, for sure. That was, I think, Rachel's last shot in 9, and then Jennifer drew for 2 to tie it. And yeah, the look on Rachel's face actually was pretty funny. She was like, what happened? Like,
it was almost like when I beat you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I don't remember that. That was when
I have to point that out every time.
They were still using the corn
analysis.
Yeah, the corn brooms. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Let's just keep this about analysis of the curling match that mattered to people, Clarkey. Right?
Yeah.
I want to ask you as well, because obviously it was just an incredibly emotional event, no matter what the outcome was with Jennifer Jones and the situation, obviously. However, you turn your attention to the woman that won this and her team, and Rachel Homan is now carving out a really incredible career at the Scotties too. This is her 5th title. She won 3 in a row during the 2010s. And actually, after she won those 3 in a row, Shawn, she lost in the final 3 years in a row. It's really incredible. Like, she could already, if, a rock had gone one way or the other, like it did for her last Sunday, she could already have the record, but she's got 5 now career Scotties titles. And we need to mention as well, friend of the show, Tracy Fleury, earning her first Scotties title on her team. Just incredible scenes for her. When you put that into context and you consider, how young Rachel still is and how much high-end curling she still has left, I mean, there's a high likelihood that we could be looking at her as the new, record holder in terms of this tournament potentially.
Yeah, I think that's, unless she decides to pack it in earlier than some. I'm not sure she'll play till she's 50 like Jennifer Jones did. That's not happening so much in the sport anymore, but yeah, it's hard to imagine a situation where Rachel doesn't get to 7. She's miles ahead of almost every other team in the country. There's 2 or 3, I think 2 or 3 at the top that are substantially ahead of everyone else. But yeah, Rachel's season has been just unbelievable. I don't know if you saw any of the numbers from their season, but like they've lost 1 game this year to a team from Canada, and their record is like, I think it was like 70-5 on the season. Like, it's just unbelievable. Yeah, one loss to a Canadian team all season. It just crazy.
Yeah, an all-time great season that will be remembered for a very long time, and for good reason. We're chatting with our friend Shawn Cottrill. And Shawn, before we, start digging into the Brier, which is obviously a massive event on the curling calendar every year, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask what was going on with you and Katie. Obviously, mixed doubles. What's going on? How has your season been? Give us an update. Obviously, provincials. What's going on?
Yeah, so we played a little bit lighter schedule this year, just 4 spiels. Had a pretty good spiel season, lost a final, lost a semifinal, lost a quarterfinal, and short of the playoffs in our 4th one, but pretty good season. So we got a direct bye to provincials based on our points. So provincials were this past weekend. Tough go. We played really well. We've got couple little ones and one that's too little to leave at home. And he ended up at Emerge for 7 hours Friday night with Katie, and kind of put a bit of a damper on things. We were sitting in a good spot at that point, 2-1 with 2 games on Saturday, and we lost both our games on Saturday on Last Rock. So kind of a tough way to end the competitive season, but we knew this year was going to be a little tough until we're in a situation where we don't have to tote the boys along with us. So yeah, hoping next year we can maybe ramp up a little bit. I think our days of playing 15 events a season are long behind us, but we still win a lot of games, and we like to think that we can win games on our experience and the number of games we've played over the years compared to a lot of the other teams that are still out there. So yeah, decent season, a little disappointing way to finish, but.
Well, we certainly believe in you guys, and obviously, and I mean, first things first, the little lad's okay. Everything worked out. Yeah.
He just had a bit of an infection in his breathing areas, and we got him looked after. But it makes it tough to focus after
of course
7 hours sitting in an emergency room. So,
Shawn, I need to ask a question about I wanted you to scout for me for a minute here.
Okay.
I saw you in Palmerston maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
And the week before, you had a young woman named Jenna Duck playing for you. Can you just give me a little scouting report on Jenna? How is she playing on the ice? Because she's very important to me.
Yeah, she's very talented. I'm not sure where she gets the talent from. Certainly not parents, I don't think. Like, she must have learned somewhere else.
Well, her mom's a curler too.
Okay, it must be her mom. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, Jenna still likes curling. That's my daughter. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Clarkey. If no one put that together before you,
it's a different last name. She's married now to Ryan, so we got to put it together for goodness sake.
I want to ask you, obviously, the Brier on deck here, obviously a marquee event in the curling world. Obviously, there's going to be favorites heading in. When you're looking at it, though, from a guy who understands the game inside and out and who understands a little bit about the field and what everybody's bringing to the table here, or the ice sheet, I should say, who in your mind are the favorites? Like, who could you see coming out of this, or in the very least being in the final, Shawn?
Yeah, I still think Brad Gushew's probably at the top of the pile of men's teams. I think there's a couple that are fairly close behind. Brendan Botcher's looked very strong this year. I think they're a team that could make a run at it. Matt Dunstone, for me, is another team that has looked very strong. They've had 2 deep runs into Brier playoffs in the last couple years. I think they're a team that definitely could make a run for it. And for me, probably 4th playoff team, almost have to go with Kevin Cooey. He's been around forever. His team doesn't seem to be maybe firing on all cylinders. I think there's a ton of talent there, but they just haven't totally got it figured out yet, it doesn't look like to me. But I'd be shocked if they're not in the mix at the end of the week.
Maybe I've missed some information here, but the Brier used to be one team from every province, except Ontario used to get a Northern Ontario team. Is this the first year? It happened in the women's too, but there's 3 Alberta teams, there's a couple of Manitoba teams, only one Ontario team, which is Scott Howard, I guess Glenn's son, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? So where is this coming from, and why are they doing it? And is this the first year they've done it?
So yes and no. So first time that they're kind of labeling the teams as Manitoba 1, 2, 3. It's replacing the wild card teams that they've had for the last few years. So those extra teams from provinces are qualifying based on ranking points for the season. So for the last 5 years, maybe, there's been wild card teams in the field.
Right. Okay.
So it's the same process. They're just calling them the province.
Why does Ontario only get one? Like, where's our buddy? I'm drawing a blank on his name. We've had him on the show.
John Epping.
John Epping.
Yeah, John Epping.
Not a good year?
Haven't made much noise this year, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay. But, like, is Ontario just not strong this year? Like, what's going on?
There's not much after Glenn. Well, so Scott Howard's team is Glenn Howard's team, but Glenn hasn't been playing for about a month and a half due to injury. So beyond them and John, there's not a ton of depth. There's some strong teams, but not at the level that they'd be getting buys to the Brier.
So is Glenn gonna, like, I think he's listed as a second on the team. Is he going to be sweeping?
I don't think he's playing at all.
Oh, he's not playing at all?
No, I don't think so. I think they have to...
Okay.
They're taking Matt Cam as their alternate, and Matt is John Epping's vice. So, I think they have... For paperwork purposes, I don't think Matt can be listed as their second because
that's
he
why we
played
had
with
you on.
Epping as another team in provincials, so he can go as a fifth, but not as a replacement player. I think some sort of paperwork type thing, but I think he'll be playing the whole week.
Okay.
Interesting. Well, that is why we have Shawn on.
That's right. So I look at it like Glenn Howard's not sweeping. Like, that's not going to happen.
No, unfortunately. Injured,
when I played in Palmerston the other day, I was a lead, and I was like the only trouble I had was the one time he saw me.
I was going to ask you if you had any difficulties, but
I came out of the hack with my gripper on, and you can't slide with a gripper on. So down I went, but it was actually an okay shot because I recovered and just tossed her down the ice and actually got it where Mike Benjamin wanted it.
You're allegedly gifted at the game, Clarkey, so I'm not surprised that you yeah, absolutely.
Natural. You know what? My knees were very sore after that. I hadn't played in like 4 years.
We need a spare for tomorrow if you want to play.
Do you? Seriously?
Yeah, do you want to play tomorrow?
You're not going to ask Jenna?
We already did. She said no.
Oh, wow. Who are you playing?
We don't meet the cut.
Who are you playing?
The Listowel team.
Oh, okay. Bruce and the boys?
Yeah, Dennis Noon and
producer Adam, clip that.
You got to be scraping
right
the bottom of the barrel if you're asking me to play. But I guess you remember the time we played against each other. I mean,
clip that. Shawn, that's why we have Shawn on. That's why we have Shawn on right there. It's the A+ curling analysis and the chirp game too. I love that. Shawn, okay, so yeah, I was considering this because you know me, I love a dark horse, right? And you brought up the guy that I wanted to hear you bring up, Dunstone. Like that last year, he made a real charge and came up just short. Like if you were, because you know, it's easy to bet on the favorites, and Goosh, like he's Goosh. Everybody loves him. We know what he's all about. If I were to take a bit of money and sprinkle it on a dark horse style bet, Dunstone would be the one that you would suggest?
I think so. I think that they have a chance. I think like eventually things are going to come a little bit back to earth for Gushu. I think like you can't win every year forever. Like eventually it kind of happened to Carey Anderson in the Scotties this year, right? Like,
yeah.
Eventually you have a week that things just don't go your way. Not that you're not playing at the top of your game, but the breaks just don't go your way. And odds tell me that's going to happen at some point for Gushu. Well,
Shawn, let me tell you this. I am going to sprinkle a little bit of cheddar on that. And if I win, I'm going to share some of the winnings with you then, because I mean, it's only fair. I got expert analysis.
That tweaks me. Let's do a little impromptu pool. We'll let Shawn just winner take all. One team, winner take all. Shawn, you're first. Who do you pick?
Botcher.
Dang it. I was going to pick Botcher.
Well, I want Dunstone.
Okay, then I'll go with...
Just take him. Just take the big cat, Clarkey.
You're not going to get the third choice in a pool very often and still be able to pick them.
Clarkey's Gushu. Mark Clarkey down for Gushu. The fact you're sitting
No,
here
but
like
there's some other good teams. Like Kevin Cooey's a good curler.
Kevin
And
Cooey,
I don't know. Like I like
there's
Kevin
no
Cooey
argument.
a lot. I
I'm
agree.
gonna-
I just don't know if Gushu is going to
Clarkey,
do it this year.
Clarkey, if Gushu wins and you had the third pick and you don't take him, I am going to punish you on this show. I'm going to punish
Okay, I'll
you.
pick Kevin Cooey. There you go.
Yes.
Gucci left off the board. There you go.
I love it, dude.
Do you think Brad is it Jacobs? Do you think he's got a chance?
He'll be decent. He's skipping Reed Carruthers' team
He'll
now.
win, right? He'll end up winning the event now.
They'll be solid.
All right.
I'm
not
surprised.
a fan. I'm just not a fan of him.
Well, listen, you know what's always solid? Shawn Cottrill's curling analysis. That's why we have him on when it's time to talk curling. Shawn, we always appreciate you coming on, my friend. Give our very best to Katie and the kids. We really, really appreciate this, dude.
Will do. Thanks, guys.
All right, when we come back, Clarkey and I will wrap up the show. You know what time it is. We got to hand out our couch potatoes, and we got a couple good ones again this week. Up next on Instigating. Back to wrap things up this week on another edition of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Ryan Drury here, still joined by Clarkey. Thanks to our friends Steve Sabourin and Shawn Cottrill for joining us to talk about the PJHL playoffs and, of course, the curling scene. And Clarkey, as always, it's an important part of the show. It's an important part of the show, and I have to shuffle over. Let me get my hat.
Yeah, you forgot, didn't you?
Because, no, I never forget. Okay. I just moved my table. I do a couple other shows in this room, so the hat was just a little out of reach for our friends at Conway Furniture. But you know what's never out of reach? Great deals with our friends at Conway Furniture, Highway 86, east end of Listowel. Listen, our Couch Potato of the Week segment, if you want to join us and be a couch potato, you go over there and you're going to find everything you need. Love seats, couches, recliner chairs. Man, they got all kinds of stuff in there. Dining sets, new flooring. You can put together an entire package. If you got a room in your house that you're thinking, look, I want to remake this whole thing, they're the people that help you out. And you know what?
Exactly.
When you walk in there, there's no messing around. There's no haggling. You go in there and the price you see on everything includes HST and delivery, baby. That's what we're into. That's what a couch potato is all about. And our friends at Conway Furniture are always reclining as a very positive couch potato. And, you know, Clarkey, we have a mix here. We have a mix here for this segment. Sometimes it's a positive thing. Last week, heaping praise on your guy, Austin Matthews.
Yes.
I will admit I am typically the pessimist here. I'm usually laying out a pretty negative couch potato. And I have another one of those this week. But as always, well, as we typically do anyway, I would like for you to reveal your couch potato of the week brought to you by Conway Furniture first.
Okay. And I have to apologize right off the bat because this is a negative couch potato. But I have to apologize to our good friend and friend of the show, Mr. Poulin. So Dave, I'm sorry, but I'm making the Ottawa Senators my couch potato of the week after their performance in Nashville or against Nashville when they got, now look carefully, 0 shots in the third period. I'm not sure how that happens when you're A, trailing in the game, and B, you're leading going into the third period in shots, 25-17, and you end up losing in the shot category 36-25. They're outshot 19-0 in the third period. I'm not sure how that happens. I don't know how a team that were down, they weren't trying to protect the lead. They were trailing going into the third, and they had 0 shots on goal. 0.
You know what's wild about that too is that earlier in that game, toward the end of the first and into the initial part of the second, they went on a run on Nashville where they were like 17-2 in shots.
That's
up
what I
on
don't
the Predators.
get. Yeah, I know. I don't understand how you can not get a shot on goal. in the third period.
19-0. And you look at some players on that team, like it's not like they're the San Jose Sharks or something. Like
No.
they got players who
They
can
beat
rip
the
it.
Leafs a couple of weeks ago. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No shots in the third. My
Zero.
God. It's
So sorry, Pooley.
unbelievable.
Sorry, Pooley. Just stating facts here.
Hey, man, it is what it is. Your results speak for themselves. And on that note, my Conway Furniture Couch Potato of the week, and I get it, Clarkey, but this is one of those narratives where saying it's just one game doesn't apply, because this is a continuation of some of the most unbelievable imploding of an athlete and their status in a sport that I have ever seen in my life. And I'm referring, of course, producer Adam, to Alek Manoah of the Toronto Blue Jays. His first spring training start.
That's an old
1
picture.
1/3 inning. He threw 17 of his 38 pitches for strikes. Less than 50%. That's unbelievable. 3 hit batters. He hit 1 with a fastball, and 2, he took a guy's toenail off with his slider. And he, as Keegan Matheson, the Blue Jays reporter for MLB.com, tweeted, allowed loud, quote unquote, loud doubles on sliders, which is supposed to be a setup pitch for him to get somebody on the corner with that fastball, or a put away pitch inside to try and get some swings and misses, which he was not doing. And again, what I saw from him in his first spring training start, it just brought back memories of the Florida Complex League and giving up all those bombs to 19-year-old kids down there. Like, it is, I am so worried. I want so badly he got married in the off season. I want good things for Alek Manoah. He's a big guy out there who takes them out. Like, his
not as big as he
year,
was last year.
No, but look, he clearly was a guy, remember when they put the pitch clock in, that everybody said, oh, this could be a guy that's really affected by it. He clearly was, and his control remains scary. I will say one thing, though, and they pointed this out, on a number of shows. The velocity's back up there. He was kissing 96 on that fastball. Like,
yeah,
okay. My optimism is, my hope, I won't call it optimism.
Okay.
My hope is still there.
Okay. But you made him a couch potato a little soon, I think.
No, I didn't, because what you want is for a guy like that to show up and go 3 deep in spring training, 4 or 5 Ks.
Let's give him a chance here. Let's see what his next couple of starts are. Okay, let's just see.
I mean, to show up after the year he had, Clarkey, and God forbid, in the very least, throw over 50% of your pitches for strikes. Come on. I think he got 3 whiffs. I think he had 3 whiffs.
One outing.
That's incredible.
1 outing.
I just want a guy like that to show up and look good right away.
Yep.
We did not get that.
Yeah,
and
I hear you, but
let me tell you this. If Alek Manoah comes out in his first start of the regular season and pitches a gem, guess who my couch potato in a positive way? Lean back and take a relaxer. It will be Alek Manoah. I promise you that.
Okay.
We all want good things for the big man. All right.
I have an honorable mention.
Okay.
Which is David Amber of Sportsnet. While throwing to a break on a Sportsnet broadcast, he said, hey, and we'll be back with the Leafs on TS, and then silence. And then you can hear, I think, Elliot say, pardon? Oh, yeah. He was about to say TSN on Sportsnet. So that was quite the gaffe, as you could say.
Tough one.
That is a tough one.
That
is a very tough one. So honorable mention to
that won't make old Ed very happy.
And a congratulations to a guy who got ski-rooed by Sportsnet, Ben Wagner, the new voice with the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, absolutely. So happy for Ben, a friend of the show as well. He lent us a lot of time last year, and I reached out to him to congratulate him, and he will be back on the show. Nice. And good for him for landing with a team that, you heard it here first, will finish first overall in the AL East this year. The Baltimore Orioles are coming, man. They are freaks. They had the year they had last year, and they've still got the number 1 rated prospect in baseball. Jackson
These are going to
Holiday.
finish last.
Clarkey,
I don't see a scenario where they're not
I'm
going to finish
scared.
last.
I am scared.
And the
I am scared.
$150 first
Well,
level
the Boston
seats
Red
will
Sox,
be,
the Red Sox could be, but man,
I agree, but
I'm
Boston
not.
seems to pull things out of their butts.
I'm not optimistic.
No,
I'm not. Looking forward to being proven wrong by the computer geniuses.
Yeah, okay.
Thank
Okay,
you
good.
very much.
We're done.
Thank you very much, everybody, for listening to and watching the show. Remember, you can watch the show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. We typically debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. Remember, you can follow us on social media at Instigating Pod. You can find the podcast version on all your favorite podcast apps. Thank you again to our friends at Conway Furniture, Highway 86 east end of Listowel, Larry Hudson's Chevrolet Buick GMC. Love for them. Yes, the deals are always hot, and there's going to be some exciting stuff coming up from then, so stay tuned for that. And, of course, the Listowel Squash Courts. We'll be back next week.
Thank you.
With more. Yes?
I want the last word. No, you wrap up, and I had the last word.
We'll be back next week with more Instigating.
And thank you for not bringing up the golf results from last week. Out of here.
Failures